Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the Board of Education meeting for the Amityville Unit 3 School District. That August 12th, 2026. I'm opening the meeting now at 5:31. Present at this meeting is myself, Board President Chris Nearing, First Vice President Angel Davenport, Second Vice President Cheryl Quinton Best, Trustee Dr. Equasia Yard-Jean, Trustee Juan Leone, Trustee Michael McDonald, and Trustee Megan Messman are not present at the moment, but are expected to arrive shortly. Also in attendance is Superintendent Dr. Gina Talbert, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction Mary Stevens, and Director of Human Resources Dr. Stephen Lando, and arriving shortly will be Interim Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations Joseph Dragon, and we also have Legal Counsel Lisa Hutchinson present. And I have a motion to enter executive session at 5:32 for the purpose of advice from legal counsel, employment history for particular persons, and conducting interviews for the position of Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations. Andrew Davenport is first.
Second.
Cheryl Quinton is second. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. We expect to reopen later this evening at approximately 7:30 p.m. Thank you. Reopen public session at 8:05 p.m. With us this evening, not everyone is sitting here at the moment. I have myself, Board President Chris Nearing, First Vice President Angel Davenport, Second Vice President Cheryl Quinton Best, Trustee Juan Leone, Trustee Michael McDonald, Trustee Megan Messman is not in the room at the moment, as well as Trustee Dr. Equasia Yard-Jean. We also have ex officio school board members Sarai Mullings and Catherine Martinez Lopez, as well as Superintendent of Schools Dr. Gina Talbert, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction Mary Stevens, Interim Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations Joseph Dragon, Director of Human Resources Dr. Lando, and will be joining us shortly is Legal Counsel Lisa Hutchinson. Please note the emergency exits. There is no smoking on school grounds, and please silence all cell phones during the business of the board. And if you would join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, I turn it over to you, Dr. Talbert.
So good evening to, once again, the Board of Education, community members, faculty, and staff. It's a pleasure to open our meeting on this evening and to give you an update as to what has been happening in our school district. At this time, we're going to turn you over into the hands of our ex officio student board members, Sarai and Catherine.
Hi, good evening, good night. I don't know. So Last 2 weeks, this week and last week, we were started the new summer bridges program within all across of the board of the district schools, especially in the high school where we had upcoming 11th graders and uh seniors to come and talk with the new freshmen to see how the school runs, ask them Q&A questions. We played Jeopardy with the students, and it really became a community within the students. Each student was able to talk to new teachers that was there, unlock their lockers. We had many fun activities. We also had tech tips where us upcoming upperclassmen were talking about tips to be successful as a scholar, and it really helped the students to learn different ways to become a better student for their upcoming freshman year.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. What would you say is the biggest pro or the biggest reward of attending the Summer Bridge program?
Being able to meet new friends. See, like, if you didn't know anyone as a shy person, you didn't know anyone, you met someone new during the summer bridges, it really came have a community. Also, they were able to see different clubs that we had, different sports, especially how the fall season is coming up in 2 weeks in the high school. So they were able to come join new sports, and it really became like a big community within the school in those small little 2 weeks, but it really made a big impact on the freshmen.
Thank you for sharing and giving your feedback. Student voice is always so important for us, and we appreciate you being a part of that and helping it to be a success for you and your peers.
You're welcome.
Thank you once again for your leadership. And the superintendent's report, we would just like to once again welcome. We're very happy to have Sarai and Catherine to join us and to have their voices and contributions throughout the school year. As we prepare for the 26-27 school year, there's a great deal of positive energy across the district. Our ESY program is going very well, and I want to thank our dedicated staff for supporting our student scholars throughout the summer. Summer Bridge, as Catherine said, is in its second week, and it's going very well. Students are engaged at all schools and preparing for the upcoming school year. We're also excited about our upcoming band camp, and our director, Ms. Musiel, is here, along with our new band teacher, and we look forward to another great year for our music programs. And we are truly embracing Tide across the district. Today, the new Tide mascot decal was installed in the high school gym. Were you all able to see it yet? Not yet. Which is another exciting step in building our shared identity and our school pride. I also want to congratulate our Amityville Pre-K through 5 PTA on earning the prestigious National PTA School of Excellence designation for all 3 of our elementary schools, Northeast, Northwest, and Park Avenue. And this all happened in the inaugural year, first year of our PTA. So we're so very proud of the partnership and the testament of this connection with our family, staff, administrators, and our PTA volunteers to come. And there's more to come with that. Finally, thank you to our local action project and the Amityville Teachers Association for partnering with us to provide free backpacks and school supplies to our students on August 31st. So there's a lot of excitement as we move toward the new year with our theme, One Tide, One Vision, Rising Together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Talbert. And I will leave it with you for the presentations.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. Joe Dragone will come forward and present on setting the tax levy for the 26-27 school year.
So it's my pleasure to present to the Board of Education some options about setting the tax levy for the 26-27 school year. First of all, I'd like to give you the close to absolute final estimate of our fund balance as of June 30th of 2026. We're still closing the books on 25-26, so this could change. But as of this morning, the available unexpended balance was $7,001,590. That is significantly higher than the amount that we had reported to the board during the budget development process, which we estimated at that time would be a little over $4 million. As we close outstanding encumbrances during this closing period, this fund balance could actually rise. We may have purchase orders that encumbered more money than we needed, and when we close that purchase order, it will become available as unexpended funds. However, at the same time, we are accruing liabilities that we incurred during the 25-26 school year, and those would actually serve to decrease the amount of funds that are available. An example for that would be an estimate of the cost of outstanding contractual obligations. We have to set aside money to pay for those employees when we eventually settle the contract with them. That's an accrued liability, which will reduce the amount of money that would be available. Our best guess at this point is that our revenue will be almost exactly equal to our budgeted revenue, but we could still get a little more in revenue than anticipated. So, to be safe, I'm making this presentation tonight estimating that the amount of money we will have available is $8 million. I want to explain a little bit about the difference between tax levy and tax rate and tax bill. I am sure that board members are very familiar with these terms, sorry. But, better? Sorry. But I want to, for the sake of the community and those watching in tonight, make sure that we all understand these terms correctly. The taxable assessed value in our school district is the sum of the assessed values of each piece of property in each segment. Amityville has a segment in Oyster Bay and a segment in Babylon. The segment in Oyster Bay is significantly smaller than the segment in Babylon. The total assessed value in Oyster Bay is $2,030,532. And in Babylon, it's $20,813,368. The problem is that Oyster Bay, Nassau County, and Babylon, Suffolk County, assess properties in different ways. So the state gives us what they call an equalization rate to allow us to translate assessed value into market value. The total assessed value divided by that equalization rate gives us the market value of properties. And as you can see in the chart below, it is estimated, that Oyster Bay has $1,692,000,000 worth of property. whereas Babylon has 3,527,000,000. And our levy gets apportioned to the townships in accordance with the market value of property. So what that means is that Oyster Bay is going to be responsible for 32.42% of our levy, and Babylon will be responsible for a little more than twice as much, 67.58%. Of course, the total adds up to 100%. So, to get the tax rate, we have to take the total tax levy in each segment and divide it by the taxable assessed value. You are used to seeing a tax bill that says you are paying a certain amount per 100 of assessed value. In the case of Oyster Bay, that number is $1,085.80. In the case of Babylon, that number is $220.60. If we have two houses that are both worth $500,000, they would be paying exactly the same tax bill, $6,515, whether the house was in Babylon or in Oyster Bay. So a home in Babylon with an assessed value of $2,950, which has a market value of $500,000, would be paying exactly the same tax bill as a similar home in Oyster Bay with a market value of $500,000, even though in Oyster Bay, the assessed value of that home is only $600,000. Now, if I haven't confused you terribly yet, forgive me. But here's what that means in terms of our own situation. We have proposed to the community that we should have a levy, a voter-approved levy in 26-27 of $68,011,079, which would be an increase in the voter-approved levy of 1.56%. You've heard me say that number over and over again as we've gone through the budget season, 1.56%. But that assumes that we are going to apply from our available fund balance $2,892,915. That's the budget we presented to the voters. That's the budget that was approved by the voters. Now that we have additional funds available, let me propose to you two separate options. One of which you could select. You could keep this option, or you could select one of these two alternatives, or you could select any other option that the board, in its wisdom, chooses to impose. Here's option two. If you remember, this year, we had to apply a reserve of $424,000 because of the fact that we had not gone through with the energy performance contract. And that, as a result of that, the levy that we actually imposed was less in 25-26 than the levy that had been approved. If we apply that same additional $424,000 to reduce the 26-27 levy, that would result in a tax levy increase of only 0.91%. It would reduce from 1.56 to 0.91, the levy that we would impose upon the community. That's option 2. Here's option 3. Option 3 would be when we apply enough of the fund balance to reduce the levy from 1.56% to 0. No increase in the levy whatsoever. In order to do that, we would need to apply $4,151,311 from our fund balance. Now, I know that that's very attractive. Obviously, it's very attractive to taxpayers, but I want to make sure that we understand the implications of options 2 and 3. So first, here's the impact on our reserves. Under option 1, our reserves would be, the unassigned fund balance, would have to be set at $4,958,530. That's the 4% that we have to, by law, limit our unassigned fund balance to. In order to make that happen, we would need to put into that new insurance reserve that you just created last month a total of $5,258,396. Now that's a problem because when we established the reserve last month, we set the limit for the amount of money we put in that reserve to only $4 million. So if we wanted to choose option 1, we would have to amend the authorization from July 14th and increase the maximum amount of the insurance reserve by $1,258,396. Option 2. In option 2, we would appropriate $3,329,000, but that would also require us to increase the insurance reserve limit. In this case, we would need to be able to put $4,822,232 into that insurance reserve. Option 3, we would be allowed to put the $4 million into the insurance reserve. We would not need to amend the authorization, and we'd still have 4% in our unassigned fund balance. So in any one of these 3 options, we would still have only 4% unassigned. All of the other reserves would be exactly as we had authorized, as you had authorized, in June. In June, that's when you gave the authorization, with the exception of the insurance reserve, which would need to be amended if you chose options 1 or 2. Let me just say again, option 1, the tax levy increase would be 1.56%, which is what the voters approved. Option 2, the tax levy increase would be 0.91%, which is less than what the voters authorized. Option 3, the tax levy would not increase at all. It would be 0. Before we leave this, however, I want to talk to you a little bit about what the impact of these 3 options would be in the future. Under option 1, if I was to predict for you what the levy limit would be in the 2027-28 school year, using 2% as a rough estimate, the levy that you would be allowed to impose without asking for a supermajority would be $69,371,301. Under option 2, because the levy itself would be lower, the levy limit would also be lower by a total of $444,887. The limit in 27-28 would be approximately $500,000 less. And under option 3, the limit in 27-28 would be approximately $1 million less. And as I've said to you, probably you have heard this ad nauseum. You've heard me say this over and over again. That's not 1 year. That is every year. The base would be lower by $1 million every year going forward under option 3. So with that in mind, I am ready to take any questions, comments.
Yes, my one question for now would be, what is the administration recommending out of these options, or are they recommending something somewhere in between?
We have, of course, deliberated over these options, and to give meaningful tax relief to a community who has supported our budgets year after year without compromising operational function, I would recommend that the board would consider option 2. I think this would be a meaningful give back. The community has supported our budgets and have continued to support the referendums to the budgets. And I think that would certainly allow us to continue our educational operations. It's almost a $500,000 hit, but I think it's a meaningful give back rather than the $1 million, which our goal is to foster stability. And we can do that with that give back rather than the $1 million give back, would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Just one other question. So the insurance reserve, that decision would have to be made at the same, like we would have to make that change at the same time?
It would actually have to be made prior
Okay.
to setting the levy. So in the business section of this meeting, you'll see that there's one resolution to authorize up to $6 million in the insurance reserve, which, by the way, is less than the state maximum. We're allowed to put 5% of our budget into the insurance reserve. 5% would be approximately $6,150,000. I'm asking you to authorize up to $6 million to go into that insurance reserve. And then you could choose option 2 or option 1.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Dragone. If you don't mind, would you be able to flip back to page 2 where you give us an estimated unexpected fund balance?
Sure.
The draft that was given to the Board of Education, although just a draft, was $7.2 million, which is now down basically $0.2 million. Can you explain what happened between, or what was spent between last week and this week at the cost of $200,000?
So what happened was as we accrue liabilities, in the closing of the books, we reduce the amount of money that's available to carry forward into the following year. One of the things we have to do is to make sure that we don't put a burden on the taxpayers in 26, 27 that should have been paid out of 25, 26 funds. So we accrue that liability in 25, 26, which reduces the amount of funds available in fund balance going into 26, 27. An example of an accrued liability would be we have a contract with our with our teacher aides, monitors, and assistants that has been expired for 2 years, I believe. And we need to set aside what we estimate might be the cost of a settlement with that unit. So we accrue, we encumber, and it's not really an encumbrance, but it's accruing that liability and mark it as an expense against 25, 26, so that the taxpayers in 26, 27 don't have to pay for something that really should have been paid out of the 25, 26 budget.
So my question is, why was this calculation only done 5 days ago?
Well, we didn't know at the time, we didn't know all of our accrued liabilities, and it could change again. It could change again. There could be other liabilities that our auditors tell us we need to accrue for. As an example, the teachers' retirement system. We have not yet gotten the bill, the final bill for the teachers' retirement system. We will not pay that bill until next October, but we are going to accrue the expense now out of the 25, 26 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Dragone. If you don't mind, can you go back to the, go forward to the slide where we finished, where you said where you showed the collective, whatever you want to call it, detriment of lost levy.
Yes.
One, and I know we've had differing opinions in the past, but one of the things that I factor in is this, okay? One of the reasons that led, in my opinion, and you can rebut it, one of the reasons why we had 2 back-to-back consecutive surpluses, okay? Operating surpluses, okay? Well, let's just go back to, the first one was roughly $10.5 million.
Unexpended, yes.
Unexpended funds. We had leftover. We asked for it. We didn't use it. We had an additional $2 million given to us legislatively through our assembly member. We had an increase in tax, the amount given to us from New York State, roughly 1.8% that we did not anticipate. I remember that from another presentation, and I believe we had another legislative appropriation for another $2 million, correct? It happened twice?
I believe that that's true, that we had
Okay.
one from Kwame O'Farrow. We've had 2, and what we did with the second one, as I remember, which was during my tenure as your interim, was we took that $2 million and we used it to replenish reserves that had been drained by the deficit that occurred 3 years ago.
Okay.
So we had at one point, if you remember, Mr. Leon, we had $8 million in fund balance, which was roughly about 6% of our budget, compared to the average school district that has about 24% of its budget in reserves. As a result of this plan, as you can see, we would have approximately 20% of our budget in reserves as compared to what we currently have right now, 16.57%. So that's what the meaning of that line at the top is.
So, Mr. Dragon, my 2 points, and I'll sum it up very quickly. We had a surplus of $10.5 million, $2 million legislatively, another $2 million gift legislatively, 1.8 over what we expected from state aid, and now we're facing another $8 million surplus. And the amount that it would have cost us to just keep the property taxes level from last year to this year would have been 1.1 million compared to that 23 million. So that's my first point. It was very, very doable then. It still continues to be very, very doable. My second point is this. When we look at that number, where we look at the cumulative loss of $1 million, we have to also realize that our expenses went down. In 2024, hate to say this, on the backs of our teachers, 47 were let go, 47 employees, and their packages that come along with them. So we're talking about the packages were estimated $1.8 million. We no longer carry that expense. And then those teachers and other support staff in the ballpark of $3 to $4 million. A sensible person could argue that this is a reset of the tax levy to a more appropriate number. This is based off of, we still have all of these employees. We don't.
There's not a question there, so forgive me, I'm not responding because you didn't ask a question.
That's okay.
Okay.
Does anybody else have
Thank you.
questions?
Thank you, Juan. I'm in agreement with you. I don't see the reason to ask for an increase this year. I'd love to get to a position where we truly know what it is that we need in our budget. And like you said, like maybe we're getting to that by not asking for additional tax levy for this year. So that we're not ending with this surplus. I'd love to see that we could actually use the money towards the kids, but we can't just go ahead and just use this money. It needs to be appropriately allocated and approved by the community in certain buckets of money. We can't just say, oh, we have $8 million, so let's do X, Y, and Z. So we really need to truly know what do we need and what do we want to execute in the upcoming years and with the strategic planning. But right now, we don't need the additional funding from the taxpayers.
So the only thing I would add to that, Ms. Messman, is that in developing the budget for 26-27, we stripped it bare and built it back up. It is teacher by teacher, monitor by monitor, built from zero. My hope is that the budget that we put out to the community, which, by the way, is an increase of 2.64% over the budget for 25-26, but includes 11 new positions and salary increases in accordance with collective bargaining agreements for all of the existing employees, and a number of initiatives started by Dr. Talbot and Ms. Stevens, including things like summer bridges and instructional coaches, etc. That my hope is that I have done a good enough job so that this budget in 26-27 will be much closer to actual expenses than either your 24-25 or your 25-26 budget were.
I totally remember. I think I've been very engaged in the whole budget development process, and I hear what you're saying. I hear it loud and clear, and I haven't changed my opinion at this point in time. I agree with you. I hope we have in the budget what we actually need in the budget.
Right. Right. And the reason why I emphasize that is that I can't believe that a business official is saying this, but I really hope we don't have a surplus of more than 2 or 3% in the budgeted expenses.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I
that's
really
how
hope that that's the
It
case.
is supposed to be, right? We're supposed to end with a little bit, $2 or $3 million, and
Right.
you offset the tax levy.
Having
And
6%
2 years in a
unexpended.
row to
Yeah.
have this much surplus, you know, we've collected too much in taxes, and this is an opportunity to say we don't need to at this point.
That's why I say it's at the option of the board. Dr. Talbot and I have had long conversations about this. We believe that you should be returning some of that money to the taxpayers. That's why we're recommending option 2, that we return the same amount of money to the taxpayers that we had taken from the levy in 25-26 because of the EPC. And what that will do, Megan, is it will, when the taxpayer gets their bill, they will see the 1.56%. They won't see anything more than that.
I also do have an additional comment. It's not directed at Mr. Dragone. This is a general statement. But we had very, very similar conversations pre-budget approval. And just to take us out of that for 1 second, if we're looking at a possible $8 million surplus, we could have skimmed 1 million off of that and no one would have had an increase this year. But we can't go back to that. But we had conversations about a 0% tax levy increase after we knew we had a $10.5 million surplus. I voted yes. I know Trustee Messman voted yes. It failed. The rest of the board didn't want to do that. We had a second option, very similar to one that's presented here tonight, but we did it months ago. I was in favor of it. I said any kind of relief we can give is a good thing. I'm not sure how Trustee Messman voted on that, but I voted yes, because I saw that we were collecting a lot more than what we were spending. But both those options failed. No one wanted to do that. And now if I can just digress for 1 second, just so you know where I'm coming from. We have an excess of funds. We know that. We're not arguing that. We have more than we should have, right? The comptroller has said that. Unfortunately, it appeared in Newsday that happened as well. But look, holding the tax levy does a couple things, and you see it on TV all the time. People are talking about that they're getting killed financially between the grocery store and the gas pump. Nothing is going down. And we're in the position that we've collected more than we needed to provide some kind of relief. It's not even turning the dial back. It's just holding it. It's giving individuals, not only property holders, but those that rent too. Because guess what? An owner that owns a property that rents it to someone else, when that property tax goes up, they pass that right along to the renter. So we had a real opportunity that, in my opinion, we missed out on. But I do like that we are circling back to revisit it, and I hope that we can do something now for the taxpayers.
So let me just add that to your comment. When we had that discussion, we thought that our fund balance, unexpended fund balance, was going to be less than 5 million. If you remember, during the discussions that we had about the budget, it is more like 7 million. So now we feel comfortable in recommending to you that you return $434,000 more than we had anticipated. We agree. We're on the same page. It's just a question of how much. Is it 434 or is it $1 million?
Right. And again, to my point, and I know not everyone shares this logic, but that one, that loss that you have in red, what you're essentially saying in just layman's terms is that if the Amityville School District does not tax to the max, that's how much we will lose after a certain period of time.
No, I'm glad you asked that question. What the numbers in red mean are, if state aid falls apart, if our pilots are eliminated,
It says annual loss levy power each year starting
Right.
27, 28. If we do not tax to the max, we lose that levy power.
if we don't tax to the max this year, yes, then in 27, 28, we will lose $444,000 of taxing power, assuming that the limit increase is 2%.
Right, but we've had back-to-back surpluses that would wash that out. Agree?
It's also following a deficit. And years before that, there's been up and down. So that's
Right.
what fueled a majority of what the board members were thinking of when we decided to not go with the 0%. Are there
I
any
would
further
just-
questions?
I would just also point out that the community voted to allow you to increase the levy by 1.56%. That was the May 19th vote. The community approved an increase of 1.56% in the levy. So,
Yeah,
There's,
but
there's no
with that-
debating that.
But
Yeah.
with that statement, though, the community didn't know that we were gonna have $8 million in surplus.
And
So
did-
what we talked about was $3.5 to $5 million in surplus, right? So now we're talking about $3 million, $8 million in surplus. So yes, it was approved, but now we can sit here and it's our job as fiduciaries to say, do we need to collect that?
So
Are there
my
any other
question-
questions?
So my question is, or observation, year one, we had a $10.5 million surplus. And then this year it's possible $7 to $8 million, which decreased by $2.5 million surplus, correct? And so is it my understanding that, or is it possible trajectory or as a projection, could it possibly be that if we went down 2.5 million in this school year, could it be also possible in the next school year that we would decrease by another 2.5 million, then bringing us down to 5.5 to 6.5 million, naturally decreasing the surplus?
I would hope so, but not because of any progression, just hopefully on the basis of the work that Dr. Talbert and Ms. Stevens and Mr. Lando and I have done to control budgeted expenditures and budget closer to real expense. I would hope that that would be the reason that we would not have $7 million unexpended in next year's budget. I'm not trying to skirt your question.
No,
Yes,
yeah,
it went from 10,
projection wise, do you
it
think it
went
would be
from
another
10
2.5
to
million?
7, and hopefully next year it will go to 5 or 4, hopefully. But I would think that that would be because of the work that we did in trying to bring the budget closer to actual expense.
Yes, and so then would that include option 1 or 2?
Yeah, the only things with option 1, 2, or 3 is the impact on the levy limit for 27, 28. That's all I'm pointing out with this chart. All right, I'm not saying that the levy in 27, 28 would need to be 68,526,413. You could set the levy next year lower than that if you don't need those funds. I just don't want you to not have the option to set it at the level that you need to set it in order to provide a high quality education to our children.
So it is in my understanding, what you're saying is that right now we have the opportunity to do 1.56%. But if we vote, depending on the option, that next year we wouldn't be able to possibly, for example, go over 1.45%. Is that what you're trying to
Yeah,
say?
roughly, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And by the way, the, this argument that we have more money than we need is belied by the fact that in any one of these options, we would still have only 20% of our money in fund balance, whereas the average school district in New York State has 24 or 25. So we would still be below average in terms of our financial position. I don't think that we should look to make it all up in 1 year, but we're certainly making progress if we go from 16.5 to 20. We're in a much healthier position. Under option 3, we would be slightly below 20%, but we would still be significantly below the average of the state.
So, Mr. Dragon, I know we've had this conversation a few times. Yes, we would still be under the average of the state, but
I'm sorry, the island.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
of the island, but also in the same breath, this is the best position we have ever been in.
Well, look at the assistant superintendent you have. I mean,
But that's true. We're in the best position we ever have been in, even though it's below average.
Are there any further questions?
so the last thing I would say to you, Mr. Nearing, is that I'm sorry, was there another question? No.
I was just going to ask about what the resolution would be, but go ahead, you
Yes.
can go first.
I have drafted the resolution with 3 separate
Right.
options. So before you vote on the resolution, if you choose options 1 or 2, we would need to first amend the insurance reserve authorization. And then you would tell me, okay, we want option 2. And that's the way the resolution would be read into the record with option 2. If you choose option 1, we would do the tax levy authorization using option 1. If you chose option 3, is that making sense? I tried to write it in a way that you have at least those 3 options in front of you.
Are there any further questions? Right. Thank you, Mr. Dragon. Dr. Talbert?
As we begin to shift to the next presentation, as we are considering the tax levy, just to be reminded that personnel and benefit costs always grows. And if there is declining student enrollment, that's a loss of revenue for us as well. And the expiration of the one-time grant funds, those positions and programs that were once funded, if we're looking to continue to bring those back, we just have to move forward with caution. On this evening, as we are planning for the 26-27 school year, as well as our upcoming retreat, I'd like to just propose to the Board of Education some direction, some priorities to consider, some conditions that we can create moving forward, how we can align some of our resources, and how we can collectively hold our organization accountable for progress. We all have the shared goal of measurable student and building level outcomes. And so tonight, we want to think about direction, we want to think about coherence, and we want to think about accountability. So the slide that is before you, this is representing our district's planning and design year. This is the year of planning and design for our 5-year strategic plan. So we are looking further and deeper at systems. We're looking at structures, processes, as well as our organizational capability to implement priorities around student achievement, organizational effectiveness, and community engagement. So slide 1, and this is available on in hard copy for you to view as well. So we are presenting some priorities for your consideration. And I want to begin by just putting this in proper context. These priorities are designed to serve as a bridge between where we are today and where we want the district to move forward. The implementation of our next strategic plan. So the 26-27 school year, as I stated earlier, is our year of planning and our year of design. And so the distinction here that I want to make is that we're measuring right things at the right levels. So you will see in these slides the overall priority, and then you'll see what I'm proposing as a goal. You will also see the areas in which we're going to focus on, as well as the evidence that we will review to see if we are successful. So, student growth and achievement. I want to just hang for just a moment on district leadership and vision and how important it is for us to revisit the vision of the district, the mission of the district, our implementation timelines, our milestones, our measures, our ownership. And these are conversations that we've already had with district leadership and building level leadership at the end of this year and in the beginning of July as well. So we do want to move on to student growth and achievement. So as you know, our focus is really on the portrait of a graduate. And we believe that we need to be very intentional about what we are preparing for our student scholars. The portrait of a graduate gives us the opportunity to define the competencies. And last night we had the pleasure of hearing our very own commissioner speak at the scope dinner that recognized our new board members and new superintendents across Suffolk County. And she hung her hat on the portrait of a graduate. And so we've begun that work here in Amityville, and we have focused on those 6 competencies in our administrative retreats. And as we develop this, it is going to help us to shore up our curriculum, our instruction, and our student experiences. So we don't want to put another initiative on our teachers' plates. That's really not what this is about. It's about building coherence around the experiences that we already provide. And Ms. Stevens did a wonderful professional development last year on building coherence with our administrators. And so the work is going to help us to, in the competency of our progressions, portfolios, capstones, curriculum alignment, and common rubrics, work that we have already been doing. So the question that we have been posing to our educators is not what are we teaching, but what are we developing in our student scholars? And so as we move on to literacy, we want to strengthen literacy because literacy means foundational. And so the science of reading implementation that we have already begun, the intervention systems, the instructional coaching, the data analysis, and the family literacy supports. And we're grateful for our parent liaisons who have played a pivotal role in family literacy supports. So we have identified evidence that will tell us whether we are making progress, such as iReady growth, New York State ELA performance, coaching documentation, and thank you to the Board of Ed for approving the instructional coaches. That's just the beginning, and we have to multiply that leadership in our schools. The walkthroughs that we conduct, as well as the intervention data that we review. So under student growth and achievement, goal 2.3 would focus on mathematics. Mathematics follows the same philosophy. So we're looking at curriculum implementation. We're looking at instructional practice, teacher collaboration, intervention planning, and family engagement. So we are working on math with our Reveal program, and we've identified the evidence that we will monitor: iReady, New York State performance, walkthrough data, professional learning, and intervention monitoring. When we look at goal 2.4, we're focusing on AI and digital innovation. And I have to applaud our administrators and educators who have already begun to push this forward last year, because AI is not going away. And our responsibility is to make sure we're not reacting to it after the fact. And thank you to the board who approved a policy as well as a regulation. And we will be reviewing that once again in August with our administrators prior to school beginning. So we need instructional guidance. We need staff learning. We need student experiences with this. And we need ethical expectations. And we need families to understand what we are doing with AI. So our goal is to teach our children about technology and to prepare them to use emerging technology responsibly, ethically, and effectively. And the next priority is under district culture and learning environment and designing a comprehensive SEL framework. So students cannot learn at their highest level if we're not paying attention to belonging, wellness, and school culture. And I applaud our schools because they've done a lot of work last year on school culture. And the feedback we got from students was affirmative, not perfect, but we're moving in the right direction. So this year we are proposing that we evaluate evidence-based SEL programs. We are in partnership with Hope for Youth, and they are providing our teachers with some training. It will take us several cycles to get all of the teachers trained. So we are identifying a district-wide approach and designing a pre-K through 12 framework. And that's our goal this year to ensure that this is being designed. Now, the next slide focuses on the priority of family and community engagement. And communication is not the same thing as engagement. So our goal is we can send 100 messages and still not have meaningful engagement with our parents. Our goal is to develop a coordinated framework that improves communication, expands partnerships, increases stakeholder voice, and creates more meaningful opportunities for collaboration. So we are looking at participation data. We will look at surveys. We'll continue to analyze Parent Square analytics, our partnership agreements, to determine where our engagement practices are actually moving. I would like to compliment our Teachers Association. Whenever they make contact with an organization that they believe will make meaningful contributions to our students, scholars, and families, they make the connection. And for that, we are grateful. Priority 5 centers around operations, finances, and facilities. And as we consider our tax levy for next year, let us please keep in mind the massive need that we have in the area of facilities and our infrastructure and those issues that are still outstanding that need continued attention. And so we want to make sure that what we're saying is a priority, that facility plans, our 5-year plan, that our budget aligns to giving attention to those areas in our 5-year plan. Our technology investments, we are analyzing our cycles for adoption with our technology and our operational systems. All of this must support our budgets because the budget is really a reflection of our values. And what do we value as the leading decision makers in this district? So we want there to be alignment between the budget, between capital planning, between enrollment, with operations, as well as technology. And the next slide, which is actually the last area of priority that I am proposing to the Board of Education for consideration, is staff development and human capital. And this may be one of the most important priorities because ultimately strategy is implemented by people. So we can have an excellent strategic plan, but if we don't develop the leadership capacity, if we don't develop our professional learning structures, if we don't develop our collaborative systems to implement it, then we're just planning for a document to stay on a shelf. And that's not our goal. Our goal is to have it to guide our decisions as we implement progress throughout the district. Now, there are some indicators that we will be looking at to determine where we land. So I agree with the principle behind the concern of measurement. Measurement is extremely important. We need accountability. I absolutely agree with that. The question is, what accountability should look like at the superintendent's level? So at the building level, our principals and administrators have very specific measurable goals tied to student outcomes, instructional practice, school culture, and operational performance. And these goals should be measurable because they are closest to the work that is being done. My goals operate at a different altitude, just like the board goals operate at a different altitude. So my role is to establish the direction, create the systems, align the resources, and build the capacity and ensure that the organization is moving toward the outcomes that we have established. And so, for example, I am not going to set a superintendent goal that says one particular grade level will increase its iReady score by X percent, because that is not where my role ends. My role is much bigger than that. My responsibility is to make sure that we have the instructional systems, the intervention structures, the professional learning, the data systems, and leadership capacity to make improved student outcomes possible. And so the measurable outcomes belong in the cascade. And the cascade is the board, the superintendent, the cabinet, the departments, the principals, the schools, the teachers, and our student scholars. And each level should have goals appropriate to its sphere of responsibilities. And so it means that the measures are appropriate to the levels of leadership. And if you look at the slides that we were just looking at with the indicators, it's including completing the strategic plan implementation framework, developing our portrait of a graduate in AI frameworks, identifying the SEL program, developing the engagement framework, aligning operational priorities, and strengthening professional learning and leadership structures. So, of course, we want to be held accountable, but not just for activity. I want to be held accountable for building the systems and conditions that will produce meaningful results. We at this time are going to transition to the continuation of this presentation as our district priorities translate into curriculum and instruction. One of the things that we do want to avoid is having 6 different priorities become 6 competing agendas. And this portion of the presentation will be led by Mary Stevens, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction.
Thank you, Dr. Talbert. Good evening, members of the Board of Education and the community. So I wanted to speak to you about one coherent direction. We are one tide with one vision, and we are headed in one direction. Our instructional agenda is comprehensive by design. We are intentionally addressing literacy, mathematics, multilingual learners, students with disabilities, assessment, and technology within the context of evolving state graduation requirements. These are not competing priorities. They are the components of a single strategic system, as Dr. Talbert mentioned, engineered to achieve significant outcomes. These include providing access to rigorous grade-level instruction, precise and timely support for students, and the cultivation of graduates who think critically, solve problems, and lead in college and career. Our work reflects New York State initiatives, district goals, superintendent's goals, and the specific needs of our students. Our primary lever for improvement is the quality of instruction that every student receives daily. We have secured aligned standards-based curricula, My View and My Perspectives in ELA, Reveal in math, but procurement is only the first step. We are now driving the transition from adoption to high leverage implementation in every classroom. We are standardizing district-wide expectations for explicit instruction, clearly defined learning targets, and evidence of student discourse. Our focus is on purposeful differentiation and rigorous checks for understanding, knowing that not every student needs the same type or level of differentiation. Our leadership teams of administrators, coaches, chairs, and teacher leaders are providing targeted support through collaborative planning and professional learning. We are ensuring that regardless of the building or grade level, every student in the district experiences a rigorous and engaging learning environment. At the center of strong Tier 1 instruction is literacy. Literacy remains the foundational district priority because students' abilities to read, write, speak, listen, and build knowledge affects their success in every content area. At the elementary level, we are strengthening evidence-based foundational reading instruction, including phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and writing. We will continue reviewing our pre-K through grade 3 practices for alignment with New York State's literacy instructional best practices. Districts are required to conduct annual local reviews of literacy curriculum and instruction, and we continue to do that. At the secondary level, we recognize literacy instruction must continue beyond those early grades. Teachers across subjects will continue to support students in reading complex text, developing academic vocabulary, constructing evidence-based responses, and communicating their thinking. This work includes linguistically responsive instruction for multilingual learners. Students learning English require access to grade-level curriculum combined with intentional language supports, not a simplified or separate curriculum. New York State's Science of Reading for Multilingual Learners Toolkit reinforces the importance of integrating evidence-based literacy instruction with practices responsive to students' linguistic strengths and needs. Strong instruction also requires us to know when students need something more. A strong core instructional program must be supported by an effective multi-tiered system of supports that is integrated. We will use iReady diagnostics, common assessments, classroom evidence, student work, and progress monitoring to answer these three essential questions. What have students learned? Where are they experiencing difficulty? And what instructional response is needed to support them? School-based teams will use this information to identify patterns, plan targeted instruction, and monitor whether interventions are producing results. Interventions must be connected to a clearly identified student need, delivered consistently, and adjusted when the evidence shows that a student is not making adequate progress. The goal is to move beyond simply identifying students who are struggling. Our responsibility is to respond early, provide the right support, and determine whether that support is working. At the same time, the information collected through the MTSS process will help us identify areas in which Tier 1 classroom instruction must be strengthened for all students. This information will inform the work of our Tier 1 instructional coaches. At the same time, we have to prepare students not only for today's expectations, but also for what comes next. Our instructional priorities must also prepare students for the changing world. New York State's New York Inspires initiative and Portrait of a Graduate emphasize academic readiness as well as communication, critical thinking, creativity, cultural responsiveness, reflection, and collaboration. As I mentioned to you in June, the state is now moving toward a competency-based graduation system in which students will have multiple ways to demonstrate what they know and can do. Our district is preparing for this initiative through the project-based learning tasks, the Seal of Civic Readiness, inquiry-based instruction, and the development of student portfolios and capstone experiences at key transition points. We are also integrating the New York State Computer Science and Digital Fluency Standards, digital citizenship, and age-appropriate artificial intelligence literacy through our instruction. These efforts should not be viewed as additional programs. They represent different ways for students to apply academic knowledge, solve authentic problems, communicate their learning, and demonstrate the competencies they will need for graduation. Of course, none of these priorities matter unless they translate into classroom practice. The success of the priorities depend on our implementation. Professional learning will be increasingly job embedded and connected to the curriculum teachers are expected to use. Instructional coaches and administrators will provide follow-up support so that professional learning results in visible changes in classroom practice. We will monitor implementation through classroom walkthroughs, collaborative planning, common assessments, student work, intervention data, and measures of student growth. We will also continue to provide the board with updates on that focus on the evidence of impact. The central question will not be, did we introduce the initiative? It will be what changed for students as a result of the work we're doing. That question really captures the direction of our instructional work this year. Our 2026-2027 instructional agenda is an ambitious one because the needs of our students are significant. Nevertheless, the work is connected by a clear purpose, strong curriculum, effective Tier 1 instruction, responsive student support, meaningful professional learning, and authentic opportunities for students to demonstrate what they know and can do. Rather than pursuing isolated initiatives, we are building a coherent pre-K through 12 instructional system in which every decision is connected to improved student learning. Ultimately, our goal is not to implement a collection of initiatives. It is to build a coherent pre-K through 12 instructional system in which every decision we make can be connected to improved outcomes for students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Are there any questions from the board?
Yeah, yes. Thank you. So I guess was a lot, and thank you for the presentations. I understand. I just want to talk about, is tonight the forum to kind of discuss further, or is that what August 26th is as far as like the workshop? And I see that these priorities and the focus area and the evidence is all structured as we have in the past couple of years for our tool, I guess, evaluation tool. So what is it that we're doing on the 26th, and when does the board have the opportunity to kind of discuss if there is additional evidence in any of the categories that would be desired? Is that tonight, or we?
So tonight I wanted to propose to the board,
Yeah.
introduce, just sort of give some preliminary, so you can give preliminary thought to where I think the 6 priorities for the district should function, and get your feedback on that. And within those priorities, I listed what my goals would be. So I wanted to provide you with copies of that and have that, not necessarily a discussion, but to put it out there. So when we come back on the 26th, we can further discuss in our work session and then further develop in our retreat. But of course, at the direction of the board as to where they would like to take it next.
Okay, understood. I was thinking that I was listening to everything and taking it all in, because we had a draft version, but now we have a more solidified final version to think about. And I do understand what you're saying about, being, the highest level of the school district, but I as a school board member would still desire, if it's not a measurable goal, then it's an increase in the evidence that really shows us how the modified systems at the different priority levels are truly impacting the students and making a difference, so that we can see that it's working. And if it's not working, then we just have a better understanding of where do we need to go. So as much as it's maybe not, increase I-Ready by 5% in grade 3, there is still something in there that can be tangible for us to really be able to wrap our heads around progress on an annual basis of any of the new systems that are being implemented, or if we're moving towards new curriculum, so that we can really understand it and get behind why the change is needed.
And we're actually on the same page with that. And our desire is to be able to produce a scorecard on a quarterly basis to update the board on the progress that we're making, so you can see some tangible differences and some marked improvements.
Right.
And then here where we're focusing to foster and boost necessary improvement. And so our principals are currently developing their action plans for their buildings, and they'll be sharing those with us in August during part 2 of our September post our administrative retreat that we'll be gathering for the next 10 days before school opens. So we're on the same page with that.
Yeah, that sounds great. The quarterly scorecard rather than just like at the end of the year. I think this year we said, okay, this is what we improved, but to see it more regularly, to understand where we are and where we're going. Thank you.
Are there any further questions?
No, I was actually thinking along the same vein and just hoping just on the 26th.
Just
Um,
talk more into the.
I'm sorry, and just hoping, on the 26th, we will see like what would the transparency look like for the community in terms of the district, and with that, and I'm glad you said what the progress monitoring would look like, because that was my second question in terms of when we talk about student growth, right, and achievement. So I think those are the things that I really want to see on the 26th, and how that's going to be tangible. And I'm looking forward to the presentations in September. Because I really think that's something, when we listen to community voice and we want them to be able to have data that we're presenting instead of pulling data from different places and spreading misinformation. So, and just in hopes of making sure that we're creating that data, being transparent in that data, so that the community doesn't create false narratives, but we're just being transparent, if that makes sense.
Any further questions? Okay, before we move on to community input, I should have done this earlier, but like to formally welcome and introduce to the community our new district clerk, Chandana Banerjee. Thank you. Welcome. And I'd also like to add on, we have one item to add to the agenda that I'd like to do before the community input. Do I have a motion to add, and I'll read the resolution. It'll be item 2C3, Village Liaison. Resolve, the Board of Education hereby establishes the annual Board of Education trustee position of liaison to the Village of Amityville, or Village Liaison, having the following roles and responsibilities: to facilitate appropriate lines of communication between the board and the Village of Amityville regarding matters of mutual interest to the district and the village, to serve in a communication and information sharing capacity only, subject at times to applicable law, board policy, district administrative procedures, confidentiality obligations, and the direction of the board, to attend as appropriate when available meetings or events of the Village of Amityville at which matters relevant to the district may be discussed, provided that attendance shall be for informational and liaison purposes only, to identify issues of potential mutual concern between the district and the village and refer such issues to the board president, superintendent of schools, or full board as appropriate, to report periodically to the board in public session or executive session as appropriate under applicable law regarding liaison activities and matters of potential interest to the board, to perform such additional liaison related duties as the board may expressly authorize by duly adopted board resolution, to promptly refer the superintendent of schools and board of education all matters that may affect district operations, personnel, students, facilities, health, safety, litigation, negotiations, or other sensitive matters that may require district action, board approval, expenditure of district funds, commitment of district resources, execution of documents, or any other matter requiring board or administrative action, negotiations, approval, execution of any contract, memorandum of understanding, intermunicipal agreement, settlement, letter of intent, grant application, permit application, or other agreement, and that may disclose or cause the disclosure of confidential and/or privileged information. It is further resolved, the Board of Education may, in its sole discretion, abolish, rescind, or suspend the position of village liaison at any time by subsequent board action. It is further resolved, the Board of Education hereby appoint trustee to be named later, to serve as village liaison for a term commencing on August 13th, 2026, and ending on June 30th, 2027, unless earlier modified, rescinded, or superseded by further action of the board. Do I have a motion to add that item?
Motion.
Angel Davenport is first.
Second.
Dr. Yargene is second. Any discussion on this item? This is just to add it to the agenda. All those in favor?
So when we're adding it to the agenda, are we identifying the person now?
Yeah, when we get to it, I'm just adding it to the agenda because it's part of the agenda, so the
Great,
community
thank you.
can talk about it. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Now moving on to community input regarding board agenda items only.
Good evening, Diane Eglinger, Bryan Avenue.
Just speak into the microphone, please. Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions. On 3B, the personnel where you have resignations, there's 4 resignations there, and I didn't see any replacements. Are there replacements for those people yet? Like the French teacher, the Spanish teacher, special education?
Dr. Talbert?
I'll ask Dr. Lando to provide an update. I know there are some replacements for some.
So
Some are in
there are not
process.
at this board meeting, there are not replacements. We are in the process of interviewing for replacements for the positions. Sometimes resignations come as a surprise to us. Sometimes they're expected. However, there are not appointments on this agenda for those 4 positions to the best of my memory.
So if there's no replacement by the beginning of school year, what happens then? For those 4 spots?
The classes are covered by a preferred substitute who is a certified sub and our other teachers as a 6-period coverage.
Okay. My second question is in the additional assignments, and I'm just talking in general. I know towards the end of last year, like before the summer, there was discussion from students how they wanted some new clubs initiated in the district, and I was wondering if that took place. I know this is an additional list. I don't know what the other list had on it, but I was just wondering if we did accommodate the students with their requests.
Yes, there have been new clubs added to both the middle and the high school
Can
for
you just
26, 27.
name a couple, like what? No?
I know you all have been working closely to ensure those are ready.
There is a Model UN, which was part of the Leaders of Tomorrow program last year. The students did ask that it continue. That's running at the high school. The middle school has a new coding club, a gardening club, and there's a step team at the middle school and the high school level that were added.
Great. Question on one of the athletic positions. I saw there's one person appointed for 3 different track. Is that because they're different seasons? Yes.
Those are 3 different seasons. And as a matter of fact, those particular items are going to be pulled for tonight as we further analyze the track program.
Okay. I was just questioning also the budget transfer, how $18,000 is going to Northeast, and I was trying to understand what, well, my time is up.
Well, we didn't pause it when they were speaking, so we'll give you
Okay.
about a minute.
I'm just wondering why Northeast needs 18,000, like why the budget wasn't figured out prior to the school year and why we're transferring $18,000 to them.
Sure. Mr. Dragon will give us an update on the transfer.
The budget for Northeast was set at $2,200 when in fact it should have been $22,000. There was a typographical error in entering that number. We have therefore transferred money from the other lines for custodial supplies and are going to try to stay within that overall budget for supplies. At some point later in the year, it may be necessary to move funds from other lines back into those supply codes.
The ones you're taking from now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, understood. And my last question is the summer appointment for a nurse to do data entry? Why is there a need for a nurse to do data entry?
So on an annual basis, we have new incoming pre-K students as well as kindergarten students. And that nurse has a multitude of paperwork and intake that she has to do with the parents and the students. So it has been our practice to bring her in a little earlier to make sure that she's ready when the school year starts. At the other schools, students' records transfer over, but at that school, they're coming in for the first time.
Okay, so so I can understand, it's the nurse at that school that's coming in early to reorganize and organize her statistics or,
To do the proper intake of medical records for the students at Northeast.
okay. Because I'm thinking data entry, Just wondering. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other community input? Seeing none, I'll close the community input and move on to the remainder of the agenda. Can I have a motion for item 2A, 1 and 2? The approval of minutes?
Motion. Second.
Megan Messman is first, Angel Davenport is second. Any discussion on these items?
No.
Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Can I have a motion for item 2C, 1 and 2?
Motion. Second.
Dr. Yargene is first. Megan Messman is second. Any discussion on these items?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion aye. Motion passes 7-0. Can I have a motion for item 2C3, the village liaison?
Motion.
Angel
Second.
Davenport is first. Dr. Yargene is second. And so now discussion. We can discuss how we want to fill this position. If we would just want to do it on a volunteer basis. If so, do we have a volunteer?
Well, I would volunteer unless someone has a very deep burning desire to do it. If not, I would throw my name in the hat, sure.
Any other volunteers? If not, I will. Okay. So we have Trustee Leon. Okay, with Trustee Leon as our representative. Any further discussion on this item?
Thank you for volunteering, Juan.
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michael? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, and the next items are gonna, okay, we're up to the district-wide safety plan. Okay. I have a motion for item 3A1.
Motion.
Angel Davenport is first.
Second.
Megan Messman is second. Any discussion on this item?
Yeah, I just had a question. On, for page 42, remote instruction, I just wanted some clarity. It says as necessary, the district will provide instruction on using remote, and technology and IT support for students, teachers, and families. The district will also work to ensure that they are provided with professional development opportunities. So I just wanted to know, has this already been established, or this will mean that, this is something new for the upcoming year?
So we have been required to include our remote learning plan in the district safety plan. And I'll ask Ms. Stevens just to elaborate a little further for you.
So the plan has been in place. Thankfully, we haven't had to use it, but we do every year meet with the principals to tweak scenarios that we think of. So it's just every year we make sure we're ready in case we need it.
And this plan is, the families already know about the plan.
We developed a comprehensive plan that we are going to post on our website. We are finalizing. We have a schedule developed that we would share with families. It has not been shared yet. We are ironing out the details of how students, especially in the elementary grades, would have access. So as soon as we're ready with that, it will be posted.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I would like to just acknowledge we have tonight with us Mr. Tom Donahue, who has been our partner and consultant through All Towers. Along with him is Ms. Carrie Palacastro, and she is our district key security personnel. And they have put in numerous hours into the district-wide safety plan. They have met with our external candidate sites for our evacuation or catastrophic purposes. They have ensured that we are compliant with the plan. They monitored any feedback that would have been received during the 30-day window. And we just wanted to convey our appreciation for your leadership in ensuring that we are compliant with NYSET and ensuring the safety of our students. So please stand and be recognized. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Talbert, I had that question here. Did we receive any comments during the 30-day public? Okay. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. And I have a motion for item 3A2, which oh,
Yeah.
yes, I did those together. Yes. Thank you. I have a motion for item 3A2, which is the extension of employment agreement for interim assistant superintendent for finance and operations, Mr. Joseph Dragone. The agreement will be from September 1st, 2026 through October 16th, 2026.
Motion. Second.
Angel Davenport is first. Dr. Yarjean is second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you,
Uh,
Mr. Dragone.
I started that
Welcome.
for you, Joe.
Welcome back.
I
We're happy to
started
have
that
you a
for
little
Joe.
longer. Um, Do I have to amend the agenda to add the candidate's name? Okay. Okay. Can I have a motion for item 3A3, and I'll read the resolution. The resolution is appointment Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints Rakim Callans to the position of Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations effective October 13th, 2026 through June 30th, 2027, pursuant to the terms and conditions of the agreement between the district and the employee, and authorizes the President of the Board of Education to execute said agreement on behalf of the board. Do I have a motion for that item?
Second.
Cheryl Quinton Best is first. Dr. Yarjean is second. Any discussion on this item? Dr. Talbert?
We would just like to, prior to the vote, thank Mr. Rakim Callens, who is a strategic financial leader with a proven track record in optimizing district resources for enhanced program and facility support. We would like to thank our interview team, who interviewed several candidates in the first round, my cabinet, who interviewed 3 candidates in the second round, and the Board of Education, who was able to meet with 2 candidates on tonight. And at this time, we will receive ourselves for the vote from the Board of Education.
Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I have one abstention. One abstention, I'm sorry, because due to a personal employment obligation, I wasn't able to fully participate in all of the interviews, so I will be abstaining on this vote.
Okay. So I have 6 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 abstention for Juan Leon. Motion passes 6-0. Congratulations, Mr. Collins, and welcome to Amityville School District. Moving on, we're gonna do one item slightly out of order that I'm gonna add. And I have a motion for item 3B1, A, B, C, and D, and also add on 3B9C.
Motion.
Angel Davenport is first.
Second.
Cheryl Quinton Best is second. Any discussion on these items?
Can you just say one more time? You said 3B1?
3B1, A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
And then we're also doing 3B9C.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
because that had to be,
Yep.
that item
Got it,
had to be
thank
done
you.
earlier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. No, wait. And I'm gonna do a whole bunch all together. I'm gonna read all the numbers and letters at one time. Can I have a motion for item 3B3, A through J, and L through W. 3B3, 4A through S. 3B3, 5A and B. 3B3A, 8A. 3B3, 9A, B, D, and E. 3B3, 10, A through G. 3B3, 11, A through OO. 3B3, 12A, 13A, and 14A.
Motion. Second.
Dr. Yardine is first. Angel Davenport is second. Oh, sorry, who would?
I said second, but it
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
matter. Okay.
Megan Messman is second. Any discussion on these items?
Not discussion per se, but it's good to see some of the PEL recalls. Those were some of the teachers that were cut that I mentioned earlier. So it's good to see some of them come back, and good to see some of them want to come back as well.
I agree. Oh, say that into the microphone.
Enthusiastically, I might add.
That's excellent to hear. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Congratulations to all those candidates. Specifically, we have our new middle school and high school music teacher, Miss Lindsay Williams. Welcome and congratulations. Okay, moving on to items 3C. What can I do together? 3C, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Can I do all those together?
Yes.
I have a motion for item 3C1 through 3C4.
Second.
Cheryl Quinton Best is first. Angel Davenport is second. Any discussion on these items?
Yes, one discussion item. C1, award of contract for school photography services. Can someone please further elaborate on that?
Sure. Mr. Dragon, you want to inform him of the process used?
So the high school uses a photographer to provide portraits for children that are paid for by parents. In addition, that photographer provides yearbook photographs to be used in the school publication at no cost to the district. We went through a request for proposal process, we sent proposal forms to 4 companies, 3 responded. The high school staff reviewed the proposals and chose the company that would be the least expensive for the parents to purchase the photographs of their children. So we're recommending tonight that you award the contract to a company called Vidcom, which was the successful proposer. And the RFP was actually drafted for us by our attorneys, was put out for public review. And we did get 4 proposals, and we've selected the one, we got 3 proposals, and we selected the one that was the least expensive for parents.
Great, thank you. I just want to differentiate that this wasn't Life Touch. This isn't what all the schools go through and they get those photo packages. It's something very specific for the high school.
It's for the high school, yes, and this actually replaces Life Touch, which used to be the provider of those services to the high school. The high school was not satisfied with the services provided by Life Touch, so we went out for a proposal, for a request for proposals, and VidCom was selected.
So will they be taking the photographs for the entire district? Will Life Touch still have a role, or are they out?
That is up to each individual principal. We certainly could use this company to do all of the photographs throughout the district.
The middle school has indicated they would like to use VidCom as well. They worked with the high school. For the elementary schools, the PTA secures the photographers because they use it as a fundraiser.
Right, and that's kind of what my question was kind of geared towards, because in the past, I thought this was a function that was basically run by a third party, the PTA. So
At
that's why there was getting some crossover with that.
Right,
Okay.
at the secondary level, they don't do it that way.
Okay,
That's
all right,
why.
very good.
Can I just ask on the canopy project, it's exciting that we're in a position to award it. Is it still the hope that the work would be conducted? I'm not sure what to pose the question to. It's for work to be conducted before the school year, Dr. Talbert?
So I'm going to ask Mr. Dragon to give us an
Okay.
update. We had a slight delay with it and see where
Right.
we are now.
We did have a slight delay. My guess is that it will not be completed before the opening of school, although the material has been ordered. We today did a lot of work on the underside of the canopy. We power washed it to get all of the peeling paint off. It is possible it will be done before the opening of school, but given the circumstances, it may not be feasible. The contractor has said he's ready to go and do the work. The one thing I want to make sure is that the contractor is not working on the canopy while children are walking underneath
Yeah,
it.
that was my next question.
Yeah.
Like, are we defining when they can start or if they're
Absolutely.
and they
Absolutely.
so
They
their
know
day
they,
might be interrupted?
yes, they
however-
will not be doing any work while children are walking under the canopy.
Right. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
And just to clarify, there's no current safety risk to it being in the condition it is right now,
Absolutely
right?
not. No, the repair is to prevent the leak and the rusting of the underside of the canopy. So once the roof is repaired, we will then do a complete scrape of the bottom of the canopy and repaint it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on these items? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Can I have a motion for item 3C5? The amendment to the reserve authorization. Can I have a motion for that item?
You could actually, if I could suggest to you, you could do this regardless of which option you select in setting the tax levy. So you could increase the authorization to $6 million and then still choose option 3, if that's the board's wish, and not have to use the increased authorization. So I would recommend that you would adopt the higher limit of $6 million and then have your discussion about what the tax levy should be set at, which option you choose.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for item 3C5?
Motion.
Angel Davenport is first. Dr. Yardjean is second. Discussion?
Yes, so I'm just comparing these maximum amounts to the slides from earlier. And it shows a capital reserve fund at 1.25, but we're showing 2.54. So
Yes,
can you clarify?
if you remember, what we did was when we received the grant from Kwame O'Farrell, earlier this year.
Yep.
We took 1.25 million of that grant and put it into the capital reserve. That was in March. Now we have authorization from the voters to put up to 2.5 million each year into the capital reserve. So what we're recommending, and you already approved in your June meeting, that we add another 1.25 million to the capital reserve so that it will have a total of 2.5 million plus interest accrued, et cetera. Does that make sense, Megan?
Well, I thought we were just amending like what the maximum amount could be.
The maximum, the only thing that you're amending with this resolution is the maximum amount in the insurance reserve. Everything else you already authorized at the June 14th meeting.
Okay, so shouldn't it be reflected in the capital reserve maximum amount here?
It is, it didn't change. The June 14th,
Okay. Doesn't.
the June 14th authorization was to add 1.25 million to the capital reserve. We're not asking you to change that. We're just asking you to increase the insurance reserve maximum to 6 million.
No,
Right.
no, I have no question about that part. I just, because the other values are listed here and it doesn't match the slide. Yeah, but, okay, I guess. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes 7-0. Can I have a motion for item 3C6, a tax levy for 26-27?
Which one are you calling?
I'm just making a motion for us to discuss it.
And then you'd need to choose which option.
Yeah.
Before you actually have the vote.
Yeah.
Or is that, should we have the discussion now?
Backwards. Okay, so how about this? I propose a motion
Okay.
a motion for consideration, which was option number 3, which proposes a 0% tax levy increase for the upcoming school year. Motion.
Second?
Juan Leon is first. Megan Messman is second. And that's for the 0% increase. Discussion? I am not in favor of the 0% amount. I'm still not comfortable with the financial status of our district and going up and down. I'm cautious on reducing it by too much and then ending up in a deficit down the road. So that's where my caution is, and that's why I'm not in favor of reducing it to 0.
Well, a lot of my points I think I made earlier, so I'm not going to recover that same ground. But again, from one perspective, if we are facing an almost a secondary surplus of nearly $8 million, like I said, all we needed was to break off 1 million out of that 8, and we could have held the property line for this school year. So I think it's definitely a viable option. It's up to the board to decide what they would like, but it's definitely a possible option.
And just again, I just have a question about the option 3. So now if we go with that one, that's where the tax levy for the next couple of years.
Yeah, you're not establishing the tax levy for future years. But what you are doing, Angel, is by reducing the levy in 26-27, you're reducing the levy limit for 27-28, 28-29, 29-30, each year by $1 million. Right, 1,077,000, whatever that number was on the chart. Not the levy. The levy, you always have the option of setting the levy as you're discussing tonight. Setting the levy at whatever level you want to set it at, as long as the voters have approved it, you can always set it lower than the voters have approved. You cannot set it higher than the voters approved. The danger, as I said, was that setting the levy lower means that you are taking the risk at some point in the future, you may need to bust the levy limit, which would require a 60% voter approval. That I can't, as a business official, I could not recommend that to you.
Thank you.
So is it now my understanding that in this 8 million is an addition of 1.2 million from the gift from Kwame Farrow?
No, the 8 million includes only the funds that were unexpended from the 25-26 budget, plus a slight possibility of more revenue than we had anticipated. The Kwame O'Farrell grant has already been folded into our reserves. So if you look at the April 30th reserve balances, Kwame's money is already in there. Right?
Oh, okay.
So this is, so correct me if I'm wrong, this is aside from that money,
That's correct.
right?
That's correct.
Right, so we are projecting an $8 million surplus, even with putting that, those funds in a reserve.
Yes. But there is also a possibility that as we decrease 2.5 million this year, that we could decrease another 2.5 million for the next year.
This year's budget increase was 2.64%, which called for an increase in the levy compared to the voter-approved levy from last year of 1.56%. Yes, there is the possibility that depending upon the initiatives that you choose for the 27-28 budget, you may have another budget increase of 2.64%. The problem that you face is you may not get the 4% increase in state aid that you got this year. Then where are you going to find that money? If you drain the reserves, if you apply fund balance, you're not going to have resources to do that other than the tax levy. And if the tax levy has to increase larger than the limit, you're talking about a 60% voter approval.
And if I can say one other thing, because I think I'm the last remaining board member that was here during that financial fiscal crisis. And just to put it out there that we already had third-party auditors look at what happened during that time period, and it was deemed to be poor controls, not poor budgeting. The budget was there appropriately. There was enough money increase from year to year. It was the controls that allowed, the lack of controls allowed for the overspending in multiple line items. So it was poor controls, not poor budgeting.
Yeah, and I would just add, just for the sake of the community, none of the officials involved in that mismanagement are currently employed in the school district or were employed during this year. So-
Right, that's absolutely correct. I think the point I was trying to make was that if there were proper controls and they were adhered to, there wouldn't have been a financial crisis, or it would have been very, very minimal, meaning that budget could have worked. And then afterwards, and I already mentioned this, that a lot of that first surplus of $10.5 million was done on the backs of the teachers. 47 staff members cut, most of them teachers. Those salaries were pulled off of the books. Their medical, dental, retirement packages were pulled off the books. And that was probably, I'm going to be honest, that probably accounted for close to 50% of the value, dollar value of that $10.5 million surplus. That was a huge ticket item. So what that means is that we no longer have that expense, and we have a $10.5 million surplus, and we're still working our budgets as if we have that teacher expense. And that's a reason why we continue to have these surpluses. So you have to take that into consideration. And like I said earlier, a 0% tax increase, number one, we can afford it. Number two, it resets perhaps where our budget should be. All right. So again, it's up to the board members, but that's kind of, I'm sharing what I'm seeing.
Could I just ask?
If I could add one more point, fine point to that one. You notice that tonight we're recalling from the preferred eligibility list a lot of those teachers. So to your point, we are now rebuilding our staff. I think the last thing we want to do is to have next year another crisis because we've added the staff, but we don't have the tax levy to support it. That's all I would say.
Could you just comment on Trustee Leon was saying that the budget was being built as if that staff was still here, but that doesn't seem to line up to me. So can you just clarify?
Yeah, so Dr. Talbert's direction to me was to make sure that the budget accurately reflects the expenditures we're going to have in 26, 27. And with Mary Stephens and Steve Lando and I working diligently with the principals on this, we made sure that every single position in the budget for next year is accounted for. We did not build it as if there were the same number of teachers that there were 3 years ago. We built it on the basis of who is here and who will be staying here for next year and what additional positions we've added. And there were, as you know, 11 positions added to this budget. That's a significant expense. And we were able to do it within only a 2.64% increase, including a $1.3 million transfer to the capital fund to do projects. That alone, that $1.3 million is $1 million more than we had the year before. So that accounts for approximately 1% of the 2.64%. We have added 11 positions, and we've been able to do it with only a 2.64% increase in the budget, despite the fact that we increased the transfer to the capital reserve by $1.2 million. I think it's a remarkable feat that we've accomplished this year. I just don't want to, look, it would be very simple for me to say, sure, cut it to zero. What the heck, it's no skin off my nose. I'm not going to be here when you have to live with this next year. But that wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be fair. You'd put yourself in a real bind financially.
Jerome,
Yes.
where's the $8 million coming from? Like, which part of money in the budget is underspent by 7.
Before you go on to that, just add on to the previous point. I remember in the line by line, you had provided us all the positions to the board with the exact names of the people that are in those positions, showing that the budget was built based on the current staffing and then the 11 additional positions. Sorry, Ms. Messman, your question again?
That was also going to be my question too. What contributed to the $8 million surplus this year projected?
So I can tell you that approximately $1 million of it was in salary lines that were unexpended for a variety of reasons. I can answer that question more accurately when we get finished with the audit, because the auditors are going to ask me that question. They're going to say, you tell me why it is that you had $8 million left over. Or it's actually $7 million. The $8 million is, just to be clear, $8 million is kind of a safety valve. I don't expect that there's going to be a full 8 million, but I also don't want to set the levy now and then say, oops, we needed to set it a little higher. Am I making sense? So you will get a thorough report from the auditors as to exactly where the under expenditures were. And then we could dig a little deeper and see why it was that we budgeted inappropriately in those particular lines. I know a significant amount of money was left over in transportation again this year. I know that a significant amount of money was left over in special education this year. And those are lines that you can never tell. Transportation, by the way, increased this year. The fee was increased by 28%. And what we're trying to do is to feather that out so that you don't experience that increase all in one year. That's why we have money left over this year. That's why next year, the transportation line did not have to increase by 28%. It only increased by about 4%. Special education.
I'm sorry, because we had a 5-year transportation agreement. So we knew what it was going to increase by every year after 2 years ago when we had to go out to RFP for transportation.
Yep.
So,
and it was the first year of that agreement was a 28.5% increase, in part because of the bus company's fear of the electrification of our bus fleet. So we feathered that out, meaning that there was a significant amount of money built into the budget, and the increase is smaller than it would have otherwise have been.
so going back to Juan's comment, it's not that we're carrying the historical number of employees. We're carrying a lot of money in transportation year upon year upon year, and we're building that to cover for those step increases.
Yeah, as I remember, I think this year's transportation increase was actually 0.
But we carried 28%
But we
in
had,
the budget.
yes, exactly.
Now we're sitting on it
Yeah.
and we're putting it in our reserves.
Yeah, sure.
Just something for consideration as you prepare for the 27-28 budget. Is that one of the collective bargaining agreements has added a way to get to the doctoral/master's plus 75 credits lane for staff. So staff that in the past might have stopped at 60 credits, there are a good number of teachers who have already submitted credits for review, had appropriate courses approved and submitted credits for review for that lane movement. So that lane movement would be in addition to there's a percent increase for the salaries for 27-28. That lane movement would be on top of the step, and the 2%. I believe it's 2% for 27-28. And so that number is an unknown that may cause I'm going to call it a bubble in salary increases for the 27-28 school year that I just want us to be mindful of as we have this discussion.
Any further discussion? so now we'll take the roll call vote to set the levy limit at 0%. My vote is a no. Ms. Davenport,
No.
Ms. Quintine Best?
No.
No. Mr. Leone?
Yes.
That's a yes. Mr. McDonald?
No.
Could you say it to the microphone, please?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Messman
Yes.
and Dr. Yardine?
No.
No? So that is 2 yeses and 5 noes. The motion fails.
Okay, can I propose a motion to move forward with option number 2 as presented at tonight's meeting?
Which is the 0.91%.
I believe so.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Megan Messman is second. Any discussion on this item? This is to set the levy limit at option 2, which was the 0.91%. So the voter approved percentage was 1.56. This would essentially cut it in half to 0.91%. So it's right. Any discussion?
That was recommended by Mr. Dragon, right?
Dr. Talbot and I both recommend that levy, yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we'll take the roll call vote. I am a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Davenport is a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Quintine Best is a yes. Mr. Leone
Yes.
is a yes. Mr. McDonald
Yes.
is a yes. Ms. Messman
Yes.
is a yes. And Dr. Yardine,
Yes.
yes. Motion passes 7-0.
I'm going to, if I may, Mr. Neering, I'm going to pass around a resolution that needs to be signed by the trustees to be returned to Nassau County. They require specifically that this resolution be signed by the trustees and turned in to them. So you're going to see it come around. You could sign on any one of the 7 lines for trustees. Okay? I just have to fill in the dollar amounts.
Okay.
And if I may ask, Mr. Dragon, Nassau County does do things a little bit differently, right? They set their levy, I believe it's what, the 4th Monday in September or something like that?
They actually go to the Nassau County Legislature to adopt what they call the adjusted base proportions. The adjusted base proportions determine how much of the levy gets placed on homes versus businesses versus utility franchise agreements versus condominiums and apartments. That happens in late September. But what they need to know from us is, what do we want to collect in the levy? And they require that from us by August 15th.
Thank you. I have a motion for, if I can do them together, item 3C7 and 3C8.
Motion.
Megan Messman is first.
Second?
Juan Leone is second. Any discussion on these items? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Yardine was out of the room, so Motion passes 6-0. Can I have a motion for items 3D1 through 3E1A through H and 3E2?
Motion.
Well,
Second.
Davenport is first, Cheryl Quintine Best is second. Any discussion on these items? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to old business. Do we have any board members have any old business they would like to discuss? Does anybody?
I'm sorry, I have a few things, but I'm gonna hold them for the 26th. But there is one sort of like business item that I've been wondering about, and I'm it was just, I thought we were gonna go out to RFP for the vending machine supplier. Did I miss an update on that potentially? No?
Mr. Dragone has been interfacing with the vending machine companies. He can give us a brief update.
Okay, thank you.
Interestingly, there are only 3 vending machines in the entire district that serve children. The rest of the vending machines are actually operated by the Amityville Teachers Association in the faculty rooms. The district has no control, so to speak, over those vending machines. We allow the ATA to put them in the faculty rooms. They get them stocked. They have an arrangement with the vendor. I am in the process now of collecting information from the principals for the 3 vending machines that are actually in operation. I believe that 2 of them are in the middle school and 1 of them is in the high school, but don't hold me to that.
Okay, I have many questions about that because I don't understand how it could reside on district and the district not be responsible for it. So I guess maybe we would talk about that in subsequent meetings.
Sure.
Because
I think that's a great topic to discuss with your new assistant superintendent for finance.
yeah, seriously though, because I mean, we talked of even something as simple as photos, like.
Yeah.
And how do you do that then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a number of questions that
Yeah.
I have in my own head
Okay.
about that. But I just wanted you to know that first of
So
all, the
there's the
machines,
3 though, the 3 machines that for some reason are not claimed by the ATA?
the machines that are in public spaces where students can access them
Mhm.
contain appropriate food. They are not operated during lunch periods because we cannot, as a school food authority,
Sure.
compete with the lunch program.
Mhm.
So I'm not worried about compliance, but I am concerned about the contractual relationships. So.
Okay, thank you.
And it just didn't get to it. I have a folder on my desk that I'm going to be working.
No, yep, we knew that it was sort of not the highest priority. And I'm sorry, I did have one other that's not really like August 26th. I was thinking that we might see the code of conduct again on today's agenda. Was that, no, sorry, Dr. Albert. I don't see you want to answer. I don't, because I think we adopted it, but I don't think it was like the latest and greatest, or we needed it to be presented as a policy for the readings.
That
Yes?
was our understanding, that it needed to be a discussion at a policy meeting. So
Oh, we needed to have the policy meeting first before we could bring the updates.
that's what we understood from Mr. Sheehan.
Oh, okay. I thought we were gonna bring it for first reading.
So typically when you discuss policy committee would review it, have recommendations, and then.
Yes, I totally understand that, but this was already some updates to the code of conduct that we tried to have at the reorganization meeting. But we did not adopt the updates at the reorganization meeting because it needed to have a first reading or
So I believe you adopted the code of conduct as presented. Right? So
the
you-
historical one.
Correct. And then there was going to be discussion about what needed to be updated or what the pleasure of the committee was for the updates so that it be represented and then adopted. That's typically how that was.
No, yeah.
So we did make some changes.
Right, we,
Our
yes.
understanding is that we needed to bring our changes back to the policy committee. And then from the policy committee, we would bring it for a first reading.
So
That was
could we
our
make like an exception to that? Because I'd love for the latest code of conduct that, like, what did you, like, some of the key things was not having recess be, taken away under the different categories. So would there be a reason that we have to wait? Because then we're not adopting that until after the school year starts. And if that, is that a Board of Education decision that we can just bring it and
Yes.
The nuts and bolts of that discussion about,
No,
whether
I-
it is you're looking for
which
would
we
be
had
discussed.
historically have had as a policy committee? Yes. Okay.
Yes, we have discussed it prior,
Yes.
but we had not discussed we have discussed what was included in the code of conduct.
And
We
the
just had
updates.
not discussed it at a current policy meeting.
Oh, so the new policy committee, and
So
then it just, okay. I just was thinking that we were trying to get it
get ahead of
adopted
the school year.
before September. Yeah.
I mean, it would certainly be at the pleasure of the board. We were following what we understood to be the directive to bring it back to the policy committee, which I don't think meets until September. I don't know the date off. And
The end of
Yeah.
September.
yeah, which means it could be approved October. Unless the board has another preference.
I thought it was my understanding at the last meeting that the current code of conduct would be in place until we reviewed and voted on the new the new code of conduct.
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
our understanding.
Okay.
But there were just some strategic updates that were being incorporated for the start of this school year. So I mean, if the board wants, we can wait. I just was suggesting that maybe we could just bring it.
Are any of those items, whether it's in the adopted code of conduct or what will eventually be adopted, is any of that actually changing what's happening in the buildings?
It could as it pertains to recess. And my suggestion is this Friday, we highlight for you in the code of conduct what the change is and send it home to the board. And if there are no objections, then we can bring it to the August 26th meeting for approval. If not, we can bring it in September, but we'll highlight for you the change that was made. And if there's a consensus, then we can bring it for a vote.
I'm okay with that. Anybody else?
Okay with that as well.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
So I do have one item. It can go under old or new business, if that's all right. It's very, very quick. So we received an email as a board from a startup company that wants to offer its services for free with regards to helping out with like minutes, and has some like new AI technology and things like that to help streamline the minutes so it's less work and more common sense for our clerk. And I thought that we would have some kind of discussion saying, is that something the board would like to entertain? I know that they do work already in this capacity for the village of Amityville. If we want to, we could revisit that email. They did like a video demonstration I just thought it might be helpful for our new clerk, so it's less labor intensive, possibly with doing some of the minutes. So
Yeah.
Is this something that would make sense for legal to look through, since it's AI platform? It seems like that would be,
I would have to, did they send, we don't know anything about it at this point.
Okay.
But I don't know if they have a contract or you want them to present to the board. what
that's
their-
kind of what I was hoping for. So they sent a video and they basically just did like a brief demo. Like when someone speaks, it knows who's speaking. So it says their name and it says, this is what this person said. If someone wanted to at some point go back and pinpoint a specific word or something in minutes, it would be very searchable. Of course, that whole transcript itself would still have to be reviewed by our clerk for accuracy,
Right.
but it's more of a recording thing.
Correct. So it's
So-
a recording and minutes don't require that level of detail in
Mhm.
terms of, you're really
Okay.
just recording the votes
Yeah.
and how they're voted. So, I
Okay.
mean, that's, again, it's at the pleasure of the board if you would want that person to come in and do a presentation. But I think to President Nearing's point, I guess the legal implications of it would have to be reviewed by our office. But I don't know enough about it yet, but it's at the pleasure of the board. If you want more information about it, then we can review what they're proposing.
and like, would this have to be compared to our AI policy? So, and I like the idea and using technology to be able to allow people to do more other tasks other than just taking notes of the meetings. So I'm not opposed to the idea of just cautious of these different things. So I guess you could forward that email to legal so they can at least look at that aspect of it.
Sure, I can forward it to legal. We all have it, so.
Right, just,
And we don't have
you
to
know.
do it or not. It was just, I just thought if if we have a new clerk in here and, it might be a little bit easier than having to type and write everything out. Maybe a lot of the work would be done. And then all you would have to do is more or less kind of review it, make minor edits to it, and then give it to the board for approval because, prior to our current clerk, a lot of the minutes took probably longer than what we needed to get to the board. And by the time we were approving them, they were already months old and things like that. So, I mean, look, if it's not needed, then it's a moot point. Let it go. But if you'd like me to share it with legal, I can definitely do that.
If I remember correctly, they were offering this service free because they're a startup and they're trying to gain more people using their service. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I would say it warrants exploring further.
I'm open to exploring it too. Thanks for the reminder, Juan. I use this at work. Not that
You said you
particular
use
startup.
that at work?
like, It's more and more that you're recording and getting the transcripts and just making things more efficient in operations. I would imagine that it wouldn't even have to be just at the board meeting, and you could use it for internal meetings as well at the administrative level, and it just transcribes and creates the minutes. So it's just a tool, and it's worth looking at.
Yes, and I also just want to reemphasize that we did have a part-time clerk and now we have a full-time clerk, so that will make a difference too. But I would also be interested in looking into it as well.
And also, I'm not, I said AI technology, but I wouldn't particularly put it in that category. Like Trustee Messman said, it's more of like a transcript technology. AI, meaning that it's not altering like your voice or your photo or your likeness or anything like that. It's a transcription service helper thing. Whatever.
However, I do believe that it would gather some biometrics. How would it know my voice as opposed to someone else's? And then we also have some students here on board. So that's, you're looking also at, parents having to sign off on that. And where does all this biometrics go? Where is it being stored? How is it being used? So, those
And again,
things.
minutes do not require a transcription of every comment made at a meeting. It's really just about the recording of the votes and how the trustees vote on various motions. So I don't know if that level of detail is required, but again, we'll look at it and then advise the board.
Thank you. Any other old or new business? Seeing and hearing none, moving on to community input regarding non-board agenda items.
Good evening, board.
Excuse me, one second.
Yes.
Shonda, are you gonna just reset the 3-minute timer? And for this section of the meeting, we run the 30-minute timer, not the 15. And then when the community member's speaking, you're gonna run the 3-minute and the 30-minute, and then when anybody at the dais is speaking, you pause both timers. Thank you.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
And others. Jacqueline Stevenson. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Summer Bridges program. As some of you know, last year my daughter entered into 6th grade, and I believe I came up here a couple times. I talked to a couple of principals and asked if there could be something done prior to the kids moving to the next level, because she had somewhat of a rough time. So far, I have a son who's in the Bridges program. He's going into the same grade, 6th grade. And this is day 3. And I can see a big difference in him versus where she was last year. For one, last year it took her a few weeks to get her ID. There was some issues. He already has his ID and has learned the process of what to do when you enter into the building. She received her Chromebook, but it was maybe October when I discovered that she actually needed to check emails and respond to them. He received his Chromebook already and is learning how to send emails. Lockers, I mean, if you could have seen the kids last year trying to open up their lockers at orientation and the parents yelling, "You don't know your left from your right, this way 1 time, this way 2 times." It took her a while as well to learn lockers, but as of today, he said he opened his locker 3 times yesterday. So that's a big plus. He started on Monday saying, "Oh no, I'm nervous. I don't want to do this." Now he's excited and is looking forward to 6th grade. So I think for him, it's great. I wish this program had been implemented last year, of course, but I would love to see more children involved. I know it's summer, a lot of parents are on vacation, but maybe next year, if we're going to do this program again, put a survey out and find out what time during the summer would be best for the parents to be able to send their children to the Bridges program. And yeah, that's basically it. I just wanted to give you my personal experience, my update on the Bridges program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevenson.
Thank you.
And just to comment on, follow up on hers, my son is also doing the Bridges program in the high school and is also having a positive experience. And maybe we can get quotes from some of the families that are participating this year to kind of help promote it for the following year.
Diane Eglinger again. I have a question. Well, and it's not a question. I want to say that I'm a little embarrassed as a taxpayer and a community member and an active person in this district for many, many years, that I have been following the $2 million that we've gotten twice from Town of Babylon. And both times we went to the town, the district went to the town saying that we were in need of that $2 million. So I'm going to talk just about the last $2 million that we received that was obtained from all of New York State taxpayers, given to Amityville
under the assumption that we were in need of that $2 million. And now that $2 million was added to our reserve fund. So that embarrasses me as an individual because we told people we were in need. And now that $2 million could have been used for the budget and prevented what Mr. Dragon said would happen in the years to come. And we could have gotten our 0% tax levy. So new board members don't know the history of things like that, and you need to investigate things like that before you vote on something. Because that $2 million now is sitting in our reserve, and we're a district with a plus over $7 million budget. Just embarrassing to me. Should be embarrassing to other people. Second question is, I was under the assumption that whenever you hired someone and you voted on the agenda item, there was supposed to be a salary in there. There is no salary for the two people that you guys hired today. Extended Mr. Dragon and hired someone new. Is that not what's supposed to happen in a agenda item?
Ms. Hutchison, can you comment on that?
Yeah, no, not necessarily, because the contracts are attached to the resolutions and the contracts have the salaries and the benefits. So the agreements have all of that information in there.
But the community members are not aware of that contract. When I was a board member, we always put salaries on the agenda item so community members could see what was happening.
That would be at the pleasure of the board, but the contract has more than just the salary. It also has their benefits, and that's available to the public to look at any time.
I hear you.
I mean, that's fine.
One other quick question. Did we have free breakfast and lunch today in this summer in the district?
Dr. Talbert?
Not necessarily across the board, but for the Summer Bridges program, we were able, and ESY, yeah, we were able to provide meals for the students who were enrolled in the summer programs.
So why was it last year we had a general, I'm just trying to be informed. Why last year it was across the board and this year it didn't happen?
So that's all a part of the CEP and the application. It's a process of application to New York State for that.
So we didn't apply for that. Is that what you're saying?
I can't say that blatantly that we did not apply for it, but it was not provided across the board this year.
Because I thought last year, and I could be wrong, I thought this was something that Governor Hochul decided she wanted all districts to have, because everywhere you went last summer, you saw the banner up. All the schools had it. And this year I did not see it anywhere. So I'm just wondering why, like what was the difference between last year and this year? I thought I was under the impression that last year every district was supposed to do it. I could be wrong, because it was just like so obvious last year. Every district had a banner up. So I thought it was from Hochul that it came down. So I was just wondering why it was different this year.
So I don't know about every district, but we did offer it across the district, Amityville district last year. We'd have to find out exactly where that process was this year.
So it wasn't like a decree from Governor Hochul last year? Yes,
I
no?
can't say exactly where the directive came from, but there's a process that you must adhere to in order to offer it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Danelle Cronin. Quick question. I guess it would be in reference to the Bridges program, and I'm glad whoever is there is having a fantastic time and they're learning, and that's a wonderful thing. Can you just let me know how many students are involved in the Bridges program?
Sure, Ms. Stevens can give you an update as to where we are across
you.
the schools.
So the enrollment for
Shandara, can you
weeks,
pause the timer?
the enrollment for 2 weeks, ranged from 60 to 100, depending on the school.
Is there a school that has a higher enrollment than another? Are there more children at the younger schools, or?
There were actually more at the 2 secondary buildings
Okay.
this year.
Fabulous. And I have another quick question. I know there has been conversation about Leaders of Tomorrow, which was a grant. I just don't want to say anything. Is that correct? Yes?
Yes,
okay.
correct. It's funded by the Empire Grant. We called our program Leaders of Tomorrow.
Okay. In reference to that, because there is no more Leaders of Tomorrow grant, correct?
We actually were notified this summer that they have extended it for 1 more year for us. So we
Oh.
do have another year of funding.
Okay, fabulous. Does that include clubs for the elementary level, Park Avenue, or?
Yes. So it's activities, right? At the secondary level, we call them more like clubs, but they are the same thing for the elementary level.
So those will be available to the students at the elementary level?
We are working on the program and what it will look like, but there will be programs in all 5 buildings.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more community input regarding non-agenda items? Seeing and hearing none. Do we have any report from legal counsel? Thank you. Do we have any report from any members of the Board of Education?
Not a report, but can we take a step back and do you mind if I ask Dr. Stevens about the Leaders of Tomorrow program being reinstated for another year? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Do we anticipate, when do we anticipate that it might be rolled out and students can begin, staying after school for certain activities?
The parameters haven't changed, so we are funded for 28 weeks. And we have to do 28 weeks, and it has to be 5 days. So when we back it out, it's usually ideal that we start mid to late October.
Okay.
And then we can run through May. So that's what we've been doing. It allows us to post and staff in September, have plans ready to go, and open in mid to late October.
Perfect. So then it would end close to when?
Memorial Day, usually we end that Thursday or Friday right before the Memorial Day holiday.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports from board members or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 10:56 p.m.
Motion. Second.
Cheryl Quinton Best is first, and Dr. Yargene is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.